At a college reunion, my girlfriend, Chloe, lost a game of truth or dare. The dare was to call the person she regretted losing most in her life. I listened as a magnetic male voice came through the speaker. She asked him, "If I were divorced right now, would you build a life with me?" The man's voice on the other end was firm. "I would." The room fell silent. Everyone expected me to fly into a rage and flip the table. Instead, I calmly slid the ring off my finger and said coolly, "We never got the marriage license, so it's not too late. Let's just break up. I'll make room for him." Without waiting for her to respond, I turned and walked away. On the way out, I made a call to my parents back in Boston. "Mom, Dad, I'm ready to come home and get married." My voice was firm and devoid of emotion. "Oh, that's wonderful, Ethan. You've finally come to your senses. You're the sole heir to Pierce Industries. If you hadn't insisted on getting a few years of real-world experience, you would have been married and running the company ages ago. Your father and I have had the perfect match picked out for a while now. We were just waiting for you to be ready." Hearing the sheer relief in their voices, a pang of guilt hit me, and my tone softened. "I'll go with whatever you've planned." "Wonderful, wonderful. How does January 19th sound for the wedding? When will you be back? Would you like to meet your fiancé beforehand? I can arrange a meeting for you too." My mother's excited, non-stop chatter was already giving me a headache. I didn't care who I was marrying. I couldn't muster any interest, so I cut her off. "I just want to come back to the family and help you two out. The marriage is just part of the deal. There's no need to meet. Just handle the wedding arrangements. I'll be back the day before." Just as I said that, the bedroom door swung open. I instinctively turned at the sound and saw Chloe walking in, her brow furrowed. "A wedding? What wedding are you talking about?" Seeing the confusion on her face, I calmly ended the call and came up with a quick lie. "A friend of mine is getting married. He asked me to be his best man." At that, the tension on Chloe's face eased, and she dropped the subject. She placed her phone on the table and went into the bathroom. A moment later, I heard the shower start. Her phone on the table lit up with a notification. As the notifications kept buzzing, I hesitated for a second before tapping the screen. A message from someone named Julian was on the lock screen. "You still remember what I said back then? You're not actually planning on marrying Ethan, are you?" The words made my chest tighten. My hand froze for a second before I swiped up to see more. Then I saw the message Chloe had sent him just 10 minutes earlier. "Julian, in 33 days, it's your 28th birthday. Do you remember what you promised me?" I placed the phone back where it was and sank onto the sofa as memories flooded my mind. When I was 18, my aunt came back from abroad to get married, so I returned as well and enrolled at NYU. To enjoy a normal college experience, and for my own safety, I never told anyone who my family was. During a welcome event for freshmen in my senior year, I went on stage to play piano accompaniment as a last-minute favor for my roommate. After the performance, as I was walking off stage with my instrument case, I looked down and saw Chloe. She was standing there in a white dress, holding a bouquet of flowers. Her eyes sparkled as she smiled and asked for my number. I'm a sucker for a pretty face, so I agreed immediately. After that, we texted every day and would conveniently run into each other all over campus. 3 months after we met, Chloe told me she had feelings for me. Felt like love at first sight, my first real crush. I had no reason to say no. And just like that, we were together from the age of 21 to 28. Over those 7 years, my family started pressuring me to come home for an arranged marriage. I refused time and again, but I also tried to gently probe her feelings on the subject. But whenever the topic of marriage came up, Chloe would shut it down immediately, avoiding it like the plague. At first, I thought she just wasn't ready to settle down, but as it kept happening, I knew something was off. Then, 2 weeks ago, I found out the truth during a drunken conversation at a party. It turned out the person Chloe had always loved was her childhood sweetheart, Julian. Unfortunately, it was a one-sided crush. Julian only ever saw her as a friend. The only reason she'd approached me was because on the night we met, she had just seen Julian with another girl. And apparently, the way I looked playing the piano reminded her a little of him. She chose me to soothe her own broken heart and to make Julian jealous. In the years that followed, Julian went through dozens of girlfriends. Every time she heard he was single again, Chloe would consider reaching out to him. But before she could, he would already be with someone new, deepening her despair. And so 7 years went by. We were still together, and Chloe had never given up hope that Julian would eventually come back to her. She was holding on to a drunken joke Julian had made years ago. "Chloe, if we're both still single when I turn 28, Why don't we just give it a shot together? So every year she would ask him about it. And this year, Julian was finally turning 28. Reading their conversation on her phone, I had to laugh. In 33 days, on Julian's 28th birthday, I would break up with her, go home, and get married. When she went into the study, I got up, turned off the lights, and got into bed. I don't know how much time passed before I heard soft footsteps in the pitch-black room. Her phone, screen glowing faintly, was placed on the nightstand. She lay down behind me, and then there was only silence. Once I heard the soft, steady rhythm of her breathing, I opened my eyes, reached over, and picked up her phone. I opened it again. In their chat, she had added just 2 words to her last message, "Never forget." It was a simple phrase, but I could picture Chloe as she typed it. She was probably biting her lip, staring intently at the screen, typing out a long message only to delete it, carefully weighing every single word. Afraid of revealing too much, yet terrified of not revealing enough. She was only ever this careful, this cautious when it came to Julian. The thought brought a bitter smile to my face. All her hopes pinned on that 28th birthday promise, waiting for Julian to finally ask her to marry him. I lay there all night, eyes closed, but sleep never came. Just before dawn, I heard a rustling beside me and opened my eyes. "Let's try to finish work early today," I said. Chloe looked over from her vanity, dabbing cream on her face. "Why? What's up?" I was quiet for a moment before saying, "It's your birthday today. Did you forget?" Chloe's body tensed for a second before she nodded. For the last couple of weeks, she'd been so consumed with Julian's 28th birthday promise that she'd forgotten everything else, including her own birthday. Thinking about the surprise I had spent the last 2 months planning, all for nothing, my heart was a tangled mess of emotions. Chloe didn't notice the shift in my expression. "Just keep it simple," she said. "It doesn't need to be a big deal like other years." Every year before, I'd gone all out planning a huge party for her, just to see her smile. Not that she ever really appreciated the effort. So when she said that, I couldn't help the self-deprecating tone in my voice. "The party's already been planned. Everyone's already RSVP'd. It's too late to cancel. I started planning this party 3 months ago. Back then, I had no idea there was someone else. If I had known, I never would have." After my explanation, Chloe was silent for a moment, then grabbed her phone and left the room. Just before she turned away, I saw her brow crease slightly. The first thing I did when I got to the office was go to my manager's office and hand in my resignation. When I walked back out holding my termination papers, the office buzzed with chatter. "Ethan, you're leaving? Why so suddenly? Do you have another job lined up? So decisive. Don't tell me you're finally going home to claim your billion-dollar inheritance." Hearing their questions, I put down my box of things and smiled. "I'm going home to get married." My coworkers nodded in understanding, but my friend Mark pulled me aside. "Ethan, did Chloe finally say yes? What made her suddenly change her mind?" I didn't feel like explaining, so I just changed the subject. "Thanks for everything these past few years, everyone. Dinner's on me tonight." After a 2-hour dinner with a few colleagues, I finally made it to the hotel. It was already 8. I rushed to the door of the private dining room, but just as I reached for the handle, the conversation inside made me freeze. "It's freezing out. Who did Chloe go to pick up?" "Who do you think?" "Julian, obviously." I was standing right there. "Julian said he was flying in today, so she ran off to get him from the airport." "Are you serious?" Chloe must be ecstatic. It's her 28th birthday today, and Julian turns 28 in a month. You don't think he's actually back to make good on that promise, do you? I heard Julian's single again. I'd say it's pretty likely. He's really back? But if they actually get together, what happens to Ethan? We've kept it from him for 7 years. He doesn't even know who Julian is. He's still completely devoted to Chloe. Well, what can you do? Chloe's always been hung up on Julian. If Julian follows through, Ethan gets dumped, guaranteed. Just bad luck for him, I guess. Good thing he doesn't come from money. If they break up, he'll be easy to pay off. I mean, he's been great to all of us and to Chloe over the years, but we're her best friends. We have to be on her side. When it happens, we shouldn't make Chloe do the dirty work. We can offer him a car or an apartment or something. A severance package. I stood there listening for a long time, not moving a muscle. Maybe because I had already decided to leave, it didn't hurt as much as it did 2 weeks ago. In fact, I found it almost funny. Chloe wants to break up with me, and she needs her friends to handle the payoff. What a joke. What have I even been doing for the last 7 years? Too bad for them, this time I'm the one leaving first. As I stood outside the door, A few waiters came by with a drink cart, and I had to step aside. The moment the door opened, the chatter inside stopped cold. I walked in with a smile, acting as if I'd heard nothing, and greeted everyone. A few minutes later, the door opened again, and Chloe walked in with a man I didn't recognize. I studied his build, noticing he looked vaguely like me, but kept my expression neutral. Chloe led him around the room, eventually stopping in front of me. "This is Julian," she said. "We grew up together." At her introduction, Julian confidently extended his hand. I met his gesture and shook it. As our hands met, Chloe hesitated for a beat before continuing. "And this is my friend, Ethan." She was clearly braced for me to get angry, but my reaction wasn't what she expected. I didn't react at all. I just looked up at her, a long, steady gaze, before pulling my hand back. I took a step back, putting some distance between us, and offered a perfectly polite smile. "Nice to meet you, Julian. I'm Chloe's friend." With the introductions over, the party's energy picked back up. Julian was an extrovert, easily chatting with everyone as he made his way around the room with a drink in his hand. He pulled a group together for drinking games. At one point, his hands were full of cards, and he asked someone to feed him a piece of watermelon. Without a second thought, Chloe speared a piece with her own fork and held it up to his mouth. Julian didn't seem to think anything of it either, leaning in to take a bite before grabbing her glass and downing half of her wine. I sat a few feet away, watching Chloe hold onto that same glass, drinking from it again and again. Each time, she made sure to drink from the exact spot where his lips had touched the rim. By the end of it, she was clearly drunk. But you can't skip the birthday classics. Everyone sang as she was prompted to blow out her candles and make a wish. The noisy room quieted down. I stood up, wheeled the cake over myself, and lit the candles. Staring at the number 28 on the candles, Chloe rubbed her temples, trying to clear her head. Her gaze, already a little unfocused, swept across the room. She held up a finger. "This year, instead of a wish, I want to ask a question." She pointed directly at Julian, her drunken but searing gaze fixed on him. "Julian, you're about to be 28 too. I want to ask you something. Do you have a girlfriend right now?" The question hung in the air, and everyone exchanged uncertain glances. Feeling the weight of everyone's stares, Julian seemed taken aback for a moment before answering, "Not at the moment." After a beat of silence, someone let out an excited "Whoa!" and the room exploded with noise. A few of her drunkest friends jumped up, pulling a giddy Chloe into a celebratory song and dance. I watched the chaotic scene unfold, sitting perfectly still, calmly playing my part as the clueless friend who was completely in the dark. The party raged on until after midnight before it finally wound down. When everyone else had gone, I helped Chloe into the car. Still giddy with happiness, she collapsed into my arms and started mumbling, "Julian, don't go. Please stay with me." "Why her? Why everyone else but me?" "Julian, do you have any idea how much I love you? I've waited for you for so many years. I wait for you every single day, Julian." The driver in the front seat heard the whole thing and was trying to hide his laughter. As I helped her out of the car, the driver couldn't resist a comment. "Hey Julian, your girlfriend really loves you, man." I gave the driver a small smile. "She does love Julian," I said calmly, "but I'm not Julian." The next morning, hungover, Chloe remembered the night before. She grabbed my arm and started explaining. "Ethan, they started pouring drinks down my throat the second I got there last night. I probably said a lot of stupid things. It was just the alcohol talking. Don't take any of it seriously." I was surprised she remembered anything, and even more surprised by her terrible excuse. But I played along, calm and rational. I just nodded. "It's fine. I know." For some reason, seeing my completely placid expression, and remembering my reaction when she'd introduced me to Julian, Chloe started to look inexplicably flustered. She seemed to sense something was wrong and quickly changed the subject. "I was so caught up with everyone last night, I completely neglected you. Ethan, are you upset with me? How about we go on a date tonight to make up for it?" "I'm not upset, but I have something this afternoon, so I can't." My flat refusal only made her more insistent on making it up to me. I couldn't argue with her, so I finally agreed. That evening, I was dressed and about to head out when a text from Mark popped up. "Ethan, did you not tell your girlfriend you quit? She just came by the office looking for you." She seemed pretty mad. Before I could even finish reading, Chloe was calling. I stared at the screen, a grim feeling settling in. After a moment, I answered. Chloe's furious voice erupted from the speaker. "Your coworker told me you quit your job. To get married?" While I was trying to think of an excuse, she cut me off, her voice cold. I have told you, I have no plans to get married right now. So she thought this was my way of pressuring her into marriage. No wonder she was so furious. Finally clicked. I patiently explained, I was just joking around with my coworkers. They must have taken it seriously. I quit because I've been exhausted lately and just need a break. Hearing my explanation, her tone finally softened. Well, don't make jokes like that again. I mumbled an agreement. Then she asked where I was and if she should come meet me. I was about to tell her the address when I heard a faint laugh in the background. It sounded just like Julian. The okay on the tip of my tongue turned into, don't worry about it. The call ended abruptly. Staring at the dark screen, I couldn't help a bitter, self-mocking smile. If she really wanted to see me, she wouldn't have hung up that fast. It was just an empty offer. Why did I even entertain it for a second? I hailed a cab and went to the restaurant we'd planned on. The host heard my name and led me directly to the rooftop dining room. I opened the door to our private room to find a table laden with food, but no Chloe. Seeing my confusion, the waiter explained respectfully, Miss Chloe called about 10 minutes ago to order everything. She said you should start without her, as she was caught up with something urgent and might be late. Thinking back to our phone call, it all made sense. Something urgent? More like she was with Julian. It wasn't a complete lie, I suppose. For her, anything involving him was an urgent matter. I didn't let it bother me and sat down. The waiter attentively set my place and described each dish. I looked at the table, which was covered in seafood, and my eyes narrowed. During my years in Europe, I never got used to the local food, so I ate a lot of seafood. I got sick of it, and I still don't have much of an appetite for it. In the past, if she had ordered all this, I would have just eaten it to make her happy. But tonight, I wasn't in the mood to compromise. I waved the waiter over and told him to clear the table. The waiter hesitated. Sir, Miss Chloe has already paid for all of this. It was very expensive. Are you sure? If we clear it, we can't offer a refund. I raised an eyebrow and handed him my credit card. I know. Clear it. Put whatever I order now on this card. Don't worry, I can afford it. Chloe never showed up. When I finished eating, I paid the bill and went home without waiting any longer. I was halfway home when my phone buzzed with a series of texts. Ethan, could you maybe stay somewhere else tonight? Julian's back unexpectedly, and his family's old place isn't ready for him. It's a mess, and some of the lights are out. He's not feeling well, and I don't want to leave him alone. I was thinking he could stay here for the night. Is that okay? So she wants to take care of Julian, but she's afraid he'll find out about us. How amusing. This time, I had no patience for her games. I texted back directly. Isn't he just your friend? Why do you have to hide our relationship from him? How long are you planning to keep this up? It was a long time before she replied. Chloe didn't explain. She just sent back a date, January 18th. Before, I wouldn't have understood the significance of that date. But now I knew. January 18th was Julian's birthday. If Julian made good on his promise that day, she would dump me without a second thought. If he didn't, she would come back to me and finally be ready for marriage. She could test the waters with him, and if he rejected her, she had me as a safety net. She could just play it off as a joke. Either way, she had all her bases covered. I had to admit it was a clever plan. Too bad I was done being her backup plan. I didn't reply. I just turned off my phone and checked into a hotel. I had a few drinks before bed and slept until the next afternoon. I turned on my phone to check the time and was flooded with dozens of notifications. Most were from Chloe, with a few from her friends mixed in. Ethan, where are you? Why aren't you answering your phone or texting back? Stop sulking and scaring us. Chloe's been looking for you all night like a crazy person. I scoffed at the accusatory messages. Turning my phone off for a night is scaring people? Besides, they all knew Julian was the center of her universe. Did they really think she gave a damn about me? Just then, Chloe called, her tone sharp. Ethan, Julian is just staying for one night. Do you really need to be this dramatic about it? Even if you're upset, you shouldn't just disappear like that. I was tired of arguing. I'm not upset, I lied. My phone died. Normally, Chloe would have accepted that. But today, for some reason, she was suspicious. Then how come I've always been able to reach you before? But last night of all nights, your phone was off? Her question caught me off guard, and a flood of memories came back to me. Like the time a few years ago when she had a stomachache in the middle of the night and accidentally called me instead of her assistant. I got out of bed and brought her medicine right away. Or last year when she was on a business trip overseas. She forgot about the 8-hour time difference and called me at 3 a.m. asking about a file. I dragged myself out of bed and pulled up the office security feed to help her locate it. Or 3 months ago, when I had my appendix out, I was barely out of the operating room, the anesthesia still wearing off when she texted. I had the nurse text her back for me. Every single instance was proof of how much I loved her. But no matter what I did, she never saw it. The thought made my voice turn bitter with self-mockery. I just never wanted you to need me and not be able to reach me. I guess you didn't need me yesterday. The strange tone in my voice seemed to unnerve her. For 7 years, I had catered to her every whim. I listened to everything she said. We never once had a real fight. When she didn't want to explain things, I never pushed. Even when I did get a little upset, all it took was a little sweet talk from her and I'd get over it. From our daily routines to dates and parties, I took care of everything for her. If she were being honest with herself, Chloe would have to admit I was a nearly perfect boyfriend. Remembering all the ways I'd been good to her, her voice softened. I know. I was just worried. That's why I was so harsh. I'm sorry, Ethan. Where are you now? I'll come to you. I didn't want to see her, so I just told her not to bother and took a cab home. When I got back to the apartment, our housekeeper told me Chloe had just left. I didn't need to guess where she'd gone. Julian must have called. Smelling the faint trace of men's cologne in the air, I didn't ask where she went. I just quietly asked the housekeeper to open a window and air the place out. I didn't see Chloe for the next 2 weeks. It was as if I'd forgotten I even had a girlfriend. I didn't call and I didn't text. I knew exactly where she was, though, thanks to Julian's Facebook posts. But I had no desire to confront her about it or try to figure out her motives. For me, every day left in New York was just part of a countdown. I had no energy to waste on someone I was about to leave for good. On New Year's Eve, it started to snow. I was in a good mood, so I spent the evening watching movies by the floor-to-ceiling window. Around midnight, as fireworks exploded outside, I started to feel tired. I leaned back in my chair and scrolled through Facebook. Suddenly, I heard footsteps outside the apartment door, which had been silent all evening. I sat up and saw Chloe stumbling in, completely drunk. She staggered inside, threw a pile of shopping bags on the sofa, and started pulling things out right in front of me. I just bought these 2 scarves. It's snowing so hard out there. Ethan, are you cold? Ethan, I bought this Rolex a few days ago. It's your New Year's gift. Do you like it? As she spoke, she tried to put everything on me at once. I felt too warm, so I took the scarf off. She then grabbed my hand, apologizing. I'm so sorry. I've been so busy lately, I haven't had time to see you. Are you mad at me again? And I shouldn't have stood you up the other night. Ethan, can you forgive me? Let's be good to each other from now on. As she said this, Chloe leaned in to kiss me. I couldn't stand the smell of alcohol on her breath, and I had no idea what this was all about, but I managed to coax her into the bedroom. Once she was asleep, I cleaned up the mess in the living room and then picked up my phone. Facebook was filled with couples posting about their night, but one post caught my eye, Julian's. He had posted a 9-photo collage of himself and a girl in the snow. The caption was interesting, meeting the right person in the first snow of the year. Seeing that post, everything clicked into place. No wonder Chloe had come home drunk, suddenly trying to make up with me. The man she loved had found someone new. Of course, why else would she suddenly remember I existed? A sarcastic glint in my eye, I unclasped the new watch from my wrist and tossed it onto the table. For the next few days, Chloe was like a completely different person. She didn't go anywhere, just stayed home, insisting on spending time with me. When I had an upset stomach, she stayed by my side and made me soup. I lingered for a second on a travel commercial, and she immediately started planning a trip for us after the holidays. Her heart must have been broken, because she was suddenly more attentive than she had ever been. But it was too late for me to be moved by any of it. I just watched her play the part of the perfect girlfriend, running around to please me, and I didn't feel a shred of guilt. This was the least she could do to make up for the past. With that thought, my conscience was clear. After the snow stopped, my mother sent me photos of several tuxedos, asking which one I preferred. I held up my phone, zooming in on each picture to examine the details. I must have been too focused, because I didn't even notice Chloe walk up behind me. Not until she snatched the phone out of my hand. I turned to see her face darken. A tuxedo? Why are you looking at tuxedos? I lied without missing a beat. I told you my friend's getting married. There was an issue with his tux, so he's picking a new one and asked for my opinion. Seeing nothing unusual in my expression, Chloe's suspicion faded. She handed my phone back. Oh right, I forgot. When's the wedding? I should go with you. Seeing the serious look on her face, my own expression turned cryptic. It's on January 19th. Are you sure you want to go? Hearing the date, Chloe hesitated. I watched her, patiently waiting for her response. After a long silence, she forced a weak smile. We'll see. Maybe. Over the next few days, I started to pack. After that conversation, Chloe seemed to sink back into a funk, walking around all day with her head in the clouds, lost in thought. Using the wedding as an excuse, I packed my bags right in front of her. I'd been living in this waterfront apartment for 6 years since graduation, and my stuff was everywhere. I only packed the things that I had bought myself. Everything else I left behind. Once I was back in Boston, I could just buy new things anyway. I would just leave it all here. Sometimes Chloe would wander over and glance into my suitcase, but she never asked about what I was packing. I knew she was too busy waiting for an invitation to Julian's birthday party to notice that I was quietly getting rid of most of my personal things. As long as all the couple's trinkets I used to treasure were still in their usual places, it would never cross her mind that I was leaving for good. After all, in her mind, I loved her so much I would die for her. Why would she ever suspect I was the one leaving? With that mindset, packing felt surprisingly easy. On January 18th, the sky was overcast, threatening rain. Chloe was up early, sitting on the sofa and staring at her phone. I got up a bit later and sat down for breakfast. Our housekeeper glanced at the weather. Mr. Ethan, it looks like rain. Should you head to the airport a bit early? At the mention of the airport, Chloe looked up. Why are you going to the airport? I'm flying out for that wedding tomorrow, I explained casually. You said you'd think about coming. Have you decided? I watched her as I spoke. She was silent for a moment. It's too far. I'll just drive you to the airport. I wasn't surprised by her answer. I finished my toast, wiped my hands, and went to the bedroom to grab my suitcase. Just as Chloe buckled her seatbelt in the driver's seat, her phone buzzed. She quickly checked it, and a look of pure, uncontainable joy spread across her usually composed face. She put her phone down, unbuckled her seatbelt, and got out of the car. Once she was out, she seemed to remember I was there and leaned back in. Ethan, something just came up at work. I have to go. I'll have my driver take you to the airport. After all these years, I could tell from the look in her eyes she was lying. I didn't call her out on it. I just nodded. While I waited for the driver, I opened Facebook. Sure enough, Julian had just posted photos from his birthday party venue. The girl from the New Year's Eve photos was nowhere in sight. Looks like he was single again, which meant Chloe's hope for his 28th birthday promise was alive again. No wonder she was so ecstatic. By the time her driver arrived, Chloe had changed into a white evening gown and was getting into her sports car parked nearby. She rolled down her window, waved, and called out, "When will you be back?" I wasn't coming back. I just smiled and waved, without answering. Luckily, Chloe didn't seem to notice and sped off. I got in the passenger seat, and once her car was out of sight, I quietly told the driver, "Let's go." A light rain began to fall, blurring the windows until I could no longer see the city outside. I didn't want to look anymore anyway. I closed my eyes and said a silent goodbye. Goodbye for good. Before boarding, I got a call from my dad. "Ethan, what time does your flight get in? I'll send a driver to pick you up." I wanted to get home as soon as possible, so I didn't object. I hadn't slept well, so I fell asleep almost as soon as the plane took off and slept through the whole 2-hour flight. After we landed in Boston, I put on a hat and sunglasses. I had just stepped out of the gate when someone stopped me. "Mr. Pierce. Ethan Pierce." Hearing the crisp, clear voice, I blearily nodded. "Your father sent me to pick you up." I squinted at her, assuming she was the driver, though I was surprised to see a beautiful young woman. As soon as I got in the car, I leaned against the window and drifted off again. When I woke up, we were outside an unfamiliar mansion. "Where are we?" I asked, my voice thick with suspicion. "This isn't my family's house." Seeing my confusion, the young woman smiled. "Not today, no, but it will be tomorrow. To be precise, this is your new marital home." Marital home? The reality that I was getting married tomorrow finally started to sink in. I just said, "Oh," and got out of the car, slowly walking towards the house. She followed behind me. As I took in the landscape grounds, I asked, "Do you happen to know my fiancé's name?" She gave me a surprised look but answered, "Isabella Sutton." I frowned. I couldn't recall any major family in Boston named Sutton. I figured I'd been away for too long and was out of touch with the local scene. I reassured myself and asked a few more practical questions. "Where's the wedding being held?" "The Crestwood Estate." "What time does it start tomorrow?" 11 in the morning. Her quick answers impressed me. She was a very efficient driver. As we reached the front door, I turned to get my suitcase from her. All right, thank you. You can go. Just be here on time tomorrow to take me to pick up the bride. But she didn't respond or make any move to leave. I thought it was strange and was about to ask what was wrong when my mother's voice called down from a balcony above. Ethan, you're back. Come on up and see your new home. I quickly looked up and waved to my family, but when I tried to pull my suitcase away, it wouldn't move. Seeing my struggle, my mother waved her hand dismissively. Oh, just come up together, Isabella. You're getting married tomorrow, no need to be shy. The driver was my fiancé. The realization left me frozen in place. I was wide awake now. I took off my hat and sunglasses and looked down at her, meeting her amused eyes. Seeing the shock on my face, she understood. She extended her hand. I guess I forgot to introduce myself properly. Mr. Pierce, I'm Isabella Sutton. I managed an awkward smile and quickly shook her hand, my voice sheepish. Sorry about that. I was still half asleep. I mistook you. I'm Ethan Pierce. Isabella just laughed, her voice light and unbothered. It's okay. We'll have plenty of time to get to know each other. Before entering the private room, Chloe looked down, carefully smoothing every wrinkle in her dress. Her phone vibrated. She pulled it out to see a text from her driver. Mr. Ethan has boarded his flight. After some hesitation, she sent me a text. Text me when you land, so I know you're safe. Composing herself, Chloe took a deep breath and pushed open the door. Her eyes immediately found the figure at the center of the room, the man who occupied her every thought. Her heart began to race as she walked towards him. Over the chatter, she heard a few of his friends teasing him. Come on, Julian. You have to introduce us to her tonight. You've been keeping her a secret for too long. What's the rush? Just wait until it's time to make a wish. I promise you'll be impressed. Make a wish? Remembering what had happened at her own birthday party, a flicker of hope ignited in Chloe's eyes. Could that silly promise he made when they were teenagers finally be coming true? For the next few hours, the thought consumed her. She nervously sipped her drink, her mind racing. By the time they brought out the cake, her hands were shaking. Her best friends huddled around her, their eyes glinting with shared excitement. Chloe, it's finally happening. How do you feel? Chloe just looked down and smiled, saying nothing. Tiffany, who had been watching eagerly, suddenly remembered something and put a hand on her shoulder. But if this happens, what about Ethan? Hearing my name at Julian's birthday party made Chloe's smile vanish. A wave of guilt washed over her. Seeing her expression change, her friends quickly rushed to reassure her. It's fine. Just break up with him. Do it right now. He's just some normal guy, anyway. He'll be easy to handle. Yeah, and if he causes a scene, we'll take care of it for you. Don't worry about it, Chloe. Goaded by her friends, Chloe pulled out her phone and typed a message, but her thumb hesitated over the send button. Seeing her hesitate, her impatient friends grabbed her hand and pressed send for her. A new message appeared right under her earlier one. Let's break up. The two texts were 3 hours apart. My flight would have landed by now. I would see it any minute. While Chloe was lost in thought, her friends pulled her toward the center of the room. As the room sang Happy Birthday, and Chloe watched with bated breath, Julian closed his eyes and made his wish. I hope my 28th year is the best one yet, and that I get to make next year's wish with Vivian. The smile on Chloe's face instantly vanished, replaced by a deathly pallor. The rest of the room erupted. Who's Vivian? Julian, aren't you going to introduce us? Amid the catcalls, a slight blush crept onto Julian's cheeks. She's my new girlfriend. Just as he said it, the door opened, and a beautiful woman in a purple dress walked in. She smiled at the crowd. Hi everyone, I'm Vivian, Julian's girlfriend. Over the roar of the crowd, Julian smiled, took his new girlfriend's hand, and started sharing stories about their relationship with his friends. Chloe stood frozen in a corner, downing glass after glass with her friends. Before long, they were all drunk. Tiffany staggered to her feet and confronted Julian, shocking everyone. Julian, she slurred, did you forget the promise you made to Chloe? Hearing this, Vivian looked intrigued. A promise? What kind of promise? The color drained from Julian's face, but Tiffany was too drunk to notice or care. The other friends, seeing their chance, chimed in to back her up. You promised Chloe you'd be with her when you turned 28. That's right, we all remember. Are you going back on your word? The smile on Vivian's face slowly faded. She turned to Julian, her gaze sharp. Is that true? It was a stupid joke I made when I was drunk. How could anyone take that seriously? Besides, I said if I was single. I have a girlfriend now, so it doesn't count. It doesn't count? Julian denied it all without a second thought. Every word was like a knife twisting in Chloe's heart. She clutched her chest, using the sofa to pull herself up. Then, as everyone watched, she started laughing hysterically. "You're right, it doesn't count. You have a girlfriend, and I have a boyfriend. It was all just a joke." At that, Vivian's smile returned. She nodded, took Julian's hand, and walked over to Chloe, acting as if nothing had happened. "Well, it seems this was all just a misunderstanding. I'd heard you had a boyfriend, Chloe. Why isn't he here tonight?" Chloe's mind was blank, but she forced a smile. "He's out of town for a wedding. He couldn't make it." Vivian nodded understandingly, but a flicker of annoyance crossed Julian's face. His voice was laced with skepticism. "A boyfriend? Who is he? I've been back for a while now. How come you've never mentioned him?" Seeing his face, Chloe was rendered speechless. Tiffany quickly stepped in to support her, glaring at Julian. "Ethan is her boyfriend," she said sarcastically. "He was at her birthday party. The handsome one." Julian remembered that night, how I had smiled and called myself her friend. Something didn't add up. "But you both said you were just friends that night." "It's called a lover's quarrel, Julian. For someone who's dated as many people as you have, you'd think you'd know that." The jab made Julian flush with anger. He shot Tiffany a look, unable to let it go. "It's because I've seen so much that I know to ask questions. Since you're so sure he's her boyfriend, why don't I just give him a call? I'd love to get to know my potential new brother-in-law." The color drained from the faces of Chloe and her friends as they all remembered the breakup text. Seeing their expressions, Julian knew he was right. He pulled out his phone, found my contact, and started a FaceTime audio call. The girls knew they were caught and tried to grab the phone, but Vivian was protective and stepped in front of Julian. Julian, not backing down, turned the volume all the way up and put the call on speaker for everyone to hear. The room went quiet, filled only with the sound of the ringing. Chloe's hands, hidden in her sleeves, were clenched into tight fists. She prayed silently that I wouldn't answer, that I hadn't seen her text yet. As it rang for what felt like an eternity, Chloe felt her heart pounding in her chest. Just as the call was about to go to voicemail and the crowd was losing interest, I answered. My voice, calm and tinged with surprise, came through the speaker. "Julian, is everything okay?" The color drained from Chloe's face, a stark contrast to the smug, unreadable smile on Julian's. "Nothing's wrong. It's my birthday, and I heard you're Chloe's boyfriend. I was just calling to invite you to join us." There was a brief silence on the line. Chloe held her breath. "Sorry, I'm in Boston right now, so I'm afraid I can't make it." Hearing my normal tone, Chloe guessed I hadn't seen her text yet and started to relax. But I wasn't finished. I let out a thoughtful a smile in my voice. "Oh, and by the way, Chloe and I broke up. I wouldn't want you to get the wrong impression." "You broke up?" Julian's voice was a mix of surprise and glee. "When did that happen?" My voice was light. "Just a little while ago, actually. About 10 minutes ago, I think. I got her breakup text but hadn't had a chance to reply yet." "Julian, could you do me a favor and let her know for me?" "I accept." The onlookers were all trying to suppress their laughter. Julian's face was a mask of amusement. He glanced at the troublemaking girls. "Sure thing," he said softly. "I'll be sure to pass that along. Sorry to bother you, Ethan." "Thanks, I appreciate it. Happy 28th birthday. And I hope all you lovebirds out there find your happy ending." I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I made sure to emphasize the words, 28th birthday. It was my way of letting them all know that I knew everything. No one dared to say a word. They just watched in silence as the call ended. The whole incident cast a chill over the party. After 5 long minutes of awkward silence, Vivian finally broke the tension by raising a glass to Chloe, smoothing things over. Chloe drained her glass, slammed it on the table, and stormed out of the party with her friends in tow. As she was leaving, she vaguely heard Vivian ask Julian a question. "Julian, this Ethan, is he from Boston?" "I think so, yeah." "Why?" "It's nothing. It's just the Pierce family in Boston. It sounds familiar. I'm probably just overthinking it." The second they were out the door, her friends pulled her into another room and started talking all at once. "It's okay, Chloe. You're better off not marrying a guy like Julian anyway. Think about it. You'd need a whole separate section at the wedding just for his ex-girlfriends from the last 7 years. Marrying a player like that would be a disaster waiting to happen. You should just focus on making things right with Ethan." "Exactly. Ethan is so much better than Julian in every way. He was obviously just angry tonight. That's why he said that." "Chloe, just go back and talk to him. Explain everything. He loves you so much, he'll understand. Their encouragement seemed to calm Chloe down a bit. She pulled out her phone and, after much thought, sent me a long text. Ethan, we were playing a game and I lost. The dare was to text my boyfriend, let's break up, and then have someone call to see how you'd react. Please don't take it seriously. How long have you been in Boston? Are you at your hotel yet? Or are you busy with the wedding setup? Are you coming back tomorrow? Or the day after? I can come pick you up, okay? She sent the message, but hours passed with no reply. Chloe stared at her phone screen, her stomach churning with anxiety. Her friends exchanged a look and quickly ordered more drinks, hoping to distract her. He's at a wedding, he's probably just really busy. Don't worry about it, Chloe. He'll text you back when he has a minute. Tiffany's right, and if he's really mad, we'll all fly to Boston with you tomorrow to help you apologize in person. I was with Isabella, helping her with a wedding dress fitting, when I got the texts. I read the first line and burst out laughing. The ability to come up with a lie like that on the spot was almost impressive. Too bad I didn't believe a single word of it. I could just picture it. Chloe, publicly rejected by Julian, desperately trying to save face. And that bizarre phone call. I bet the whole scene was quite a show. For a moment, I was actually sad I hadn't been there to see it myself. I sighed. Isabella, who was adjusting the hem of her dress, looked up. What is it? You don't like this dress? I can have them send over more options. I waved my hand. No, it's not that. I was just thinking I missed some good drama because of all this wedding stuff. A small regret. Drama? What kind of drama? Can you tell me about it? As much as I wanted to share, I knew talking about my ex in front of my fiancé was probably not the best idea. I decided to change the subject. Oh, just some friends back in New York. A birthday party that got a little out of hand. Nothing important. We should probably focus on the wedding. Seeing that I didn't want to talk about it, Isabella didn't push. She just went to the living room, brought back some pastries, and sat with me for the rest of the afternoon. Are you getting hungry? You should have a snack. When we're finished here, we can go out for a proper meal. Anything you're in the mood for. I was actually getting hungry. I asked her what she wanted, made a note, and stepped out to place an order. As I ordered our food, I found myself thinking. From what I'd gathered, Isabella was the youngest of 3 daughters of the Sutton Enterprises family in Boston, and she was 2 years younger than me. She had one sister 2 years older, and another 5 years her senior, who was the current VP of Sutton Enterprises. Her eldest sister had practically raised her, so she was poised and proper, not like her middle sister, who was notorious for her revolving door of boyfriends. The Pierce and Sutton families had grown close in recent years. After careful consideration, my family had proposed the marriage alliance. According to my mother, Isabella had agreed after seeing just one photo of me, apparently quite pleased. I didn't buy that for a second. After all, I was coming back from a failed relationship to do my duty to the family. I hadn't given this arranged marriage a single thought. My plan was simple. If it worked, fine. If not, we'd get a divorce. It was a business arrangement. Neither of us had a choice in the matter. So I highly doubted it was love at first sight, as my mother claimed. But after spending the afternoon with her, even though we were still strangers, I could tell from the little things that she was a good person. She was, of course, stunningly beautiful, and her personality, from what I could tell, was gentle and kind. She was organized, thoughtful, and seemed to have a good understanding of people. All in all, I was satisfied with my new, ready-made fiancé. More than satisfied, actually. I was pleasantly surprised. It seemed my parents had excellent taste. After a night of drinking, the first thing Chloe did when she woke up was check her phone for a reply from me. More than 12 hours had passed. The chat was still empty. She rubbed her eyes furiously. Then, in a fit of rage, threw her phone against the wall, startling everyone else awake. The action was enough to sober everyone up instantly. Tiffany was the first to react, calling her assistant to book the next 6 flights to Boston. I can't believe Ethan is playing hard to get. Don't worry, Chloe. We'll all go with you. We'll help you win him back. The others chimed in with words of support, and Chloe finally started to feel a bit better. They left the club and headed straight for the airport. In the car, Chloe stared out at the skyline, a sense of regret washing over her. If she had known it would all end in disappointment, she would have just agreed to come to Boston with me yesterday. The more she thought about it, the more dejected she felt, and she had to force herself to stay calm. But maybe it was for the best. Hearing Julian say those words himself finally gave her the closure she needed. For over a decade, she had waited for him. Countless times she had wanted to give up, but that stupid promise about his 28th birthday always kept a sliver of hope alive, especially after she started dating me. She felt like she was being torn in two, never knowing how to face the man who was so completely devoted to her. Now, it was time to finally make a choice. She tentatively asked her friends, "If I can't win Ethan back today, I'm thinking of asking him to marry me. What do you think?" At the word marriage, her friends' eyes went wide. Marry Ethan? With his family background? Your parents would never approve. He's a great guy, handsome, sweet, but he's fine for dating. Marriage? He's not in your league. Even though they were all trying to talk her out of it, Chloe wasn't listening. She leaned back in her seat, her mind filled with memories of our time together. After she turned 25, I had started bringing up marriage every few months, trying to gauge her feelings. She knew what I wanted, and she knew my family was pushing for it, but for her own selfish reasons, she always played dumb. Now, they weren't getting any younger. I was devoted to her. She had finally seen the light and didn't want to lose me. She knew getting her family to approve of our marriage would be an uphill battle, but she was willing to try. With that, Chloe made up her mind. She would propose to me in Boston. She texted her assistant, telling him to win the bid on a pair of famous wedding rings that had recently been up for auction. Just before she boarded, her assistant texted back that the rings had been sold for an astronomical price. That much for a pair of wedding rings? Chloe was stunned. She asked who the buyer was. The assistant replied with a single name, Sutton. The Suttons of Boston? The name, a powerhouse in their world, left Chloe speechless. But she was friendly with the middle Sutton daughter, Jessica, so she gave her a call. "Oh, the rings? Yeah, I bought them. My little sister is getting married today. They were a wedding gift." "You're a little late, Chloe. Your sister is getting married today? Seems like everyone's getting married today." Chloe was surprised, but she chose her words carefully. "Ah, I must have had too much to drink and forgot to bid. That's very kind of you, Jessica. Well, since your sister is getting married, please pass on my congratulations. I wonder who the lucky guy is." Jessica laughed at the flattery. "She's marrying into the Pierce family. Perfect match, really. A match made in heaven." Pierce. The name immediately made Chloe think of me. My last name was Pierce. Was the wedding I was attending the Pierce Sutton wedding? Did I have relatives in the Boston branch of the Pierce family? A dozen strange thoughts swirled in Chloe's mind, but the cold winter air that hit her as she stepped out of the car seemed to blow them all away. She shook her head, pressing her temples, and pushed the ridiculous thoughts away. How could a guy from a small town like me possibly be connected to the Pierce family? As soon as her plane landed in Boston, Chloe called me. I answered, making sure there was plenty of background noise, my tone cold. "Hello, ex-girlfriend. Is there a reason you're calling?" The title made her blood boil, reminding her of the night before. But she knew this wasn't the time to get angry. She swallowed her pride and explained patiently. "Ethan, what I said yesterday was just a joke. Please, you have to believe me." I cut her off. "Is that so? I don't care if it was a game. I only care about what I saw. You don't need to explain. I'm busy. I don't have time for this." And with that, I hung up, not caring what she had to say. My attitude left Chloe fuming. Tiffany pulled her into a waiting car. "Don't fight with him over the phone. Just be sweet when you see him in person. He'll come around." As her friends took turns consoling her, their car pulled out of the airport garage. The driver asked for the address, and they all froze, staring at each other. None of them knew where the wedding was. Tiffany wanted Chloe to call me back, but was afraid we'd just fight again, so she called from her own phone. "Ethan, we're in Boston. Where's the wedding?" A few seconds later, a woman's voice answered, "Just come to the Crestwood estate." Hearing an unfamiliar woman's voice, Chloe snatched the phone, ready to demand who it was, but the line went dead. Tiffany quickly tried to placate her. "You know how Ethan is. He said he was busy. He's the best man. He probably just handed his phone to one of the bridesmaids. Don't be jealous." At that, Chloe's anger subsided a little. Her friends gave the driver the address, but as the words "the Crestwood estate" left their lips, they all exchanged uneasy glances. "Isn't that in one of the most exclusive old money neighborhoods in Boston? The kind of people who live there are the ones who run the world. My friend was having his wedding there?" Chloe's heart began to pound. Those strange thoughts from before the flight came rushing back. Could I really be some distant relative of the Pierce family? At 10:30, the guests were taking their seats for the ceremony. I stood on the rooftop terrace, looking down at the ceremony space. Isabella had planned the entire thing herself, and it was breathtaking. But seeing it now, I realized my mother hadn't been exaggerating. If anything, she'd been modest. A Pierce Sutton wedding would draw every important person in our circle, but even so, the guest list couldn't be more than 1,000 people. Why did they need a venue this massive? The sun was out, but it was still winter, and there was a chill in the air. To ensure the guests' comfort, they had set up countless outdoor heaters, disguised as elaborate floral arrangements made with flowers flown in from Europe. And the wedding favors were custom-made, solid gold lockets, one for every single guest. The sheer extravagance of it all was staggering, even for someone like me. I smoothed down my wind-blown hair and was about to say something when Isabella walked over. "It's getting cold out here," she said, her voice full of concern. "We should go inside." I nodded and followed her inside. She handed me a cup of hot coffee. "Someone just called, said they were in Boston and asked for the wedding location. Was that one of your friends? Do we need to send someone to the gate to meet them?" "What friends?" I was confused. I quickly checked my phone's call log. When I saw the name Tiffany, my expression turned strange. "Tiffany called? She's in Boston?" Isabella, still unaware of the situation, simply nodded. A cryptic smile touched my lips. "No need to meet them. They'll find their way in. There are a lot of people here. I can see paparazzi with long lenses on the hills over there. I should probably have security tightened, just in case." Isabella agreed without a second thought. Before she left, she handed me the wedding rings. As soon as she was gone, I finally let out the laugh I'd been holding in. Chloe was coming to my wedding? I could only imagine the look on her face when she saw me standing at the altar. I opened the ring box, and when I saw the rings inside, I froze. They were the same rings I'd seen in a magazine 2 months ago. I had even sent a picture of them to Chloe. Back then, I had imagined myself on one knee, proposing to her with them. Who could have known that just a few weeks later, I would find out the truth about her and Julian? The wedding and the rings I had dreamed of for so long. Now I had them, and as for the bride, this was so much better. Today, looking back on the last 7 years, I felt no sense of loss. Only relief. At 11 o'clock sharp, the ceremony began. With all eyes on them, Isabella's father walked her down the aisle and placed her hand in mine. We went through the motions of the ceremony, and soon it was time to exchange rings. Just as Isabella was about to place the ring on my finger, a commotion erupted from the audience. I looked up and saw her, Chloe. She was acting like a madwoman, shoving people aside, her eyes red and furious, her face twisted in a mask of rage. Her friends were right behind her, shouting my name. The sudden outburst drew the attention of every guest. All eyes were darting between our altar and the scene she was causing. Despite the curious and malicious stares, I remained calm. I turned to Isabella. Seeing the anger and confusion on her face, I quickly explained. "I'm sorry, they're friends from New York. Can we pause for a moment? Give me a few minutes to go talk to them." Isabella hesitated, then nodded. I waved for the music to stop. Security had already restrained Chloe and her friends and were about to drag them out, but they stopped when they saw my signal. The entire time, Chloe's eyes were fixed on me, never wavering. Seeing me standing before her in a tuxedo, my expression calm, she finally lost control. "You said you were attending a friend's wedding," she seethed. "Was that friend yourself?" Seeing her so furious, I almost laughed. Well, you know how it is. When someone says, "a friend of mine," they usually mean themselves, don't they? My words seemed to push her over the edge. She closed her eyes, and when she opened them again, they were burning with rage. "Is that your excuse for marrying someone behind my back?" "Behind your back?" "The Pierce Sutton engagement has been all over the news for the last month. Don't you read the news, Chloe?" "Pierce Sutton?" Chloe seemed to remember something and whipped her head around to look at the bride. Isabella's face bore a striking resemblance to her sister, Jessica. Chloe recognized her instantly. Her eyes widened, her mouth trembling, her entire being screamed one word: disbelief. If Isabella Sutton was marrying me, then that meant I was. Behind her, Tiffany and the others finally put it together. "Ethan," Tiffany gasped, her face a mask of shock. "You're a Boston Pierce?" I looked at them calmly and patiently introduced myself. To be precise, I am the sole heir to Pierce Industries, the only son of Arthur and Eleanor Pierce, and the husband of Isabella Sutton. Are there any other questions about who I am? The long list of titles left all 6 of them speechless. Back in New York, they were big shots, but this was Boston. Their family money was nothing compared to the fortunes of the Pierce and Sutton families. After a long silence, Chloe finally spoke, her voice hoarse. Why didn't you ever tell me? You hid things from me too, like a certain 28th birthday. My words made her face go white. She started to struggle again, desperately trying to explain. I can explain that, Ethan. I never really got over Julian, but for the last 7 years Isabella, who had been watching silently, cut her off. Take them away, she said to the guards. After speaking to security, she took my hand, her voice gentle. This isn't the right time to catch up, Ethan. We can invite your friends to dinner after the wedding is over. We shouldn't keep our guests waiting. I knew she was smart enough to have pieced together some of what was going on in those few short minutes, and that's why she intervened. The moment Chloe and her friends crashed the ceremony, I had already resigned myself to the wedding being called off. The Suttons were a respected family. They couldn't afford the scandal of their new son-in-law being confronted by his ex-girlfriend at the altar. If the scene had gotten any bigger, they might have called the whole thing off right then and there. So as I watched them being dragged away, I was surprised that Isabella had made such a decisive move at such a crucial moment. I nodded in agreement, but my mind was full of questions. Now just wasn't the right time to ask them. Isabella took my arm, and we walked back to the center of the altar together. The piano music swelled again, and amid the applause of our guests, we exchanged our rings. As the bouquet flew through the air, a shower of petals and confetti rained down from above. The bright noon sun caught her face, illuminating her exquisite features. I turned away from the past and walked confidently towards my future. After the grand wedding was finally over, I was exhausted. Thinking back on the day's events, I knew it was time for us to have an honest conversation. I decided to speak first. About what happened today. Is there anything you want to ask me? Isabella, who was wiping off her makeup, paused and looked at me. If you want to tell me, then I have questions. If you don't, then I have nothing to ask. Her calm, diplomatic answer took me by surprise. For the first time, it occurred to me that I had married someone truly remarkable. I found myself studying her more closely. Our wedding had been a disaster, yet she hadn't complained once. She was able to calmly push aside her own curiosity out of respect for my privacy. Her grace was truly admirable. I couldn't help but ask, aren't you curious about what my relationship with them was? Aren't you worried about what kind of baggage might come with all of this? Isabella sat down in a nearby armchair, her expression serene. I'm curious, and I'm worried, but none of that really matters. What matters is that we completed our wedding, you are my husband, and we have a future together. As for the past, if you want to share it with me, I'd be happy to listen. If you don't, I understand. It's all in the past. Why dwell on things that can't be changed? In that moment, I was struck by how different she was from anyone I'd ever known. My perception of her shifted completely. Her words made me want to be honest. The woman at the wedding, I began, was my ex-girlfriend. The others were her friends. We were together for 7 years. I wanted to marry her, but she was in love with someone else. When I found out, I decided to break up with her and come home to Boston. My parents were already pressuring me to get married, so I just agreed. We officially broke up yesterday. She didn't know who my family was, so she came here and caused a scene. As I spoke, a subtle expression crossed Isabella's face. Broke up yesterday, married today. Isn't that a little fast? Maybe a little, I admitted. But this is just a business arrangement for us, isn't it? As long as we present a united front to the public, that's all that matters. I said it matter-of-factly, which seemed to amuse Isabella. The smile on her face deepened. So you don't care at all who you're marrying? Not really. I just want to take my place at Pierce Industries. Something flickered in Isabella's eyes. She studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. In that case, she said, I think we're going to get along just fine. Being dragged several hundred feet by security guards in front of hundreds of people was the greatest humiliation Chloe had ever endured. Her friends fared no better. They were all unceremoniously dumped at the estate's main gate, surrounded by security guards, too intimidated to even protest. And waiting at the bottom of the steps were hundreds of reporters, frustrated at being unable to get a shot of the wedding of the century. A few of the sharper ones recognized Chloe immediately and swarmed her. Ms. Chloe, were you also a guest at the Sutton Pierce wedding? You look a bit disheveled. Did something happen inside? One question opened the floodgates, and the reporters descended, cameras flashing. Chloe, already furious, was enraged at having her picture taken in such a state. She shoved her way through the crowd, knocking over several cameras, and stormed off with her friends. That night, the story of Chloe assaulting reporters was all over the entertainment news. Her family's company's reputation plummeted overnight. Negative press was everywhere, and even her family's money couldn't make it stop. She was locked in her hotel room, drunk, when Julian called. "Chloe, I saw the news. The guy who married Isabella Sutton. Was that really Ethan? Is he a Pierce? So what if he is?" Hearing her confirm it, Julian's voice grew excited. "Vivian just told me that the proposal for the joint project between our 4 families is ready. I heard the final decision on the project is being made in Boston. Since you were with him for so long, do you think you could talk to him? Get him to help us land the contract?" Chloe's head was spinning, but she still had a sliver of sense left. She let out a cold, hopeless laugh. "Ask him for help? He's married to Isabella Sutton now. So what? You were together for 7 years. Even though you're broken up, he must still have some feelings for you. You should at least try. Your father just called me, by the way. He was furious, asking where you were. If you could land this project, I'm sure he'd forgive you for what happened today, don't you think?" His words gave Chloe a sliver of hope. She didn't make any promises, but gave him a non-committal answer. After she hung up, she stumbled to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face, which helped to clear her head. A few minutes later, Tiffany knocked and came in, also wanting to talk about the project. Chloe sat on the sofa, staring out the window, her mind a chaotic mess. The project was a huge opportunity, and powerful players from Boston, New York, and even overseas were all vying for it. The 4 major New York families had formed an alliance specifically to win this contract. And according to her intel, the person overseeing the project was none other than Catherine Pierce, my aunt. If she could use me to get to my aunt, her chances would increase exponentially. After a long moment of thought, Chloe decided it was worth a try. Not just for the project, but for her own selfish reasons as well. She wanted another chance to see me. The day after we got our marriage license, I went straight to the Pierce Industries headquarters and started my new job as vice president. To help me get up to speed, my father assigned me several of his top assistants. I spent the entire day buried in reports, finally getting a rough grasp of the company's inner workings. By the time I looked up, it was dark outside. It was 8 o'clock, and my office was the only one in the building still lit. I rubbed my temples, grabbed my phone, and headed downstairs. As I walked into the parking garage, I saw Isabella waiting for me. I had no idea why she was there. I walked over and asked, "Weren't you busy today?" Isabella smiled, a hint of wry amusement in her voice. "Today is the 2nd day of our marriage. Technically, I should still be on my honeymoon." Hearing that, and remembering the subtle look on her face that morning when we left the courthouse and I'd said I was going to the office, it finally clicked. I felt a little embarrassed. "First time getting married," I explained. "I don't really know the rules. I forgot. Besides, honeymoons and things like that are for normal couples, right? This is just a business arrangement. We don't need to celebrate, do we?" A flicker of disappointment crossed Isabella's eyes, so fleeting I almost missed it. She quickly recovered, opening the passenger door. "If you're busy, we don't have to celebrate. But we are married after all. Surely the great CEO Pierce can spare some time for dinner with his new wife." Her teasing tone made me smile. I readily agreed and got in the car. We went to a famous upscale restaurant for dinner. It was the dinner rush, and since we were late, all the private rooms were taken. I was hungry and didn't want to go somewhere else. So with Isabella's agreement, we took a table in a quiet corner by the window. Isabella handed me the menu and pointed out a few of the restaurant's signature dishes. Following her recommendations, I ordered a few things I liked and then handed the menu back to her. But Isabella didn't order anything for herself. I remembered from our previous meals that we had very different tastes in food. I was worried she wouldn't like what I'd ordered. "Are you sure you don't want to get something else?" I asked. "My taste in food is a little specific. You might not like it." Isabella just smiled and shook her head, her eyes sparkling. "Since we're married, we'll be eating together every day. I should learn to like the things you like. We got married, we didn't sign a contract of servitude. You're still allowed to order food you actually like. You don't have to be so accommodating. You can just tell me what you want. We can talk about it." My words seemed to surprise her. She looked down, a hint of amusement in her voice. "We can talk about anything?" I nodded, completely serious. "Then can we talk about not canceling our honeymoon?" She looked so serious, I thought she was going to ask for something important. The word honeymoon caught me completely off guard. "You really want to go on a honeymoon?" Isabella looked at me, her expression soft. "I've been planning this wedding for a long time. I was hoping to take a break. And both our families want us to get to know each other better." I thought a honeymoon would be a good opportunity for that, don't you think? Her tone was so sincere that all the excuses I had prepared died in my throat. To be fair, Isabella was a good wife. She was always respectful of my wishes. I didn't particularly care about a honeymoon one way or the other, and I didn't want to disappoint her over something so small, so I agreed. My agreement made her smile brighten. Great, once you're settled in at work, I'll make the arrangements. Chloe had waited outside the Pierce Industries building all day. When she saw me leave, she followed me to the restaurant, taking a table nearby, waiting for a chance to speak to me alone. But I didn't leave the table all night. The sight of me laughing with Isabella, of us sharing food, was like a knife in her heart. Her food sat untouched for 2 hours as she stared at my smiling face. When I finally got up to use the restroom, Chloe followed me out and cornered me in the hallway. Ethan, why did you agree to marry Isabella Sutton? I turned at the sound of her voice, my expression hardening. If I recall correctly, we broke up. Whether I get married or not is none of your business. My dismissive tone clearly insulted her, and her anger flared. But the Pierce Sutton engagement was announced over a month ago. We were still together then. You already had my replacement lined up. I crossed my arms, my voice cool. Yes, I decided to come back to Boston and get married a month ago. But why are you so angry? You've been planning to dump me on Julian's 28th birthday for the last 7 years. Am I wrong for planning my own exit strategy a month in advance? My words left her speechless. She clenched her fists, swallowing the bitter pill of regret, but still tried to defend herself. It's not what you think with him. I know he doesn't love me. It's just, we've known each other for so long, and there was that promise. It became an obsession. I did want to be with you. On the plane to Boston, I was planning to propose to you. I had even picked out the rings. Ethan, can't you just believe me this once? Her words were laughable. So you only remembered your backup plan after he shot you down for good? Too bad for you. I'm already married. Why don't you go propose to Julian, Chloe? Maybe he'll say yes. The undisguised mockery in my voice seemed to cause her physical pain. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. He never loved me. I was a fool. I never saw him for who he really was. It wasn't until his birthday party that I realized. Over these 7 years, I've gotten used to having you by my side. I really do want to marry you. Before, I thought that even though she was playing both sides, some part of her feelings for me had been real. Now, hearing her words, I just felt sick. You hate him for not wanting you, for treating you like his backup plan. You probably think that after waiting for him for a decade, your epic love for him is something to be admired, something that could move mountains, right? But while you're busy hating him, have you ever stopped to think that you're no different from him? He strings you along, and you can't stand it, so you string me along. You're two of a kind. So why are you here, playing the part of the poor, heartbroken victim who made a terrible mistake? The color drained from Chloe's face, leaving her ghostly pale. I didn't care how she felt. I was done with this conversation. Without another glance at her, I turned and walked back to the dining room. As I passed her, Chloe grabbed my arm again. My patience had run out. I shook her off. In the struggle, an old, ornate chandelier overhead gave a sickening creak and came crashing down, right towards me. In that split second, Chloe instinctively shoved me out of the way. With a sickening crunch, the heavy iron fixture slammed into her shoulder, and blood splattered. I stumbled back several feet, right into Isabella, who had come to see what was taking so long. I couldn't help but look back. I saw Chloe crumpled on the floor in a pool of blood. She was curled in a ball, clutching her bleeding shoulder, her face contorted in pain. Restaurant staff rushed over to help her. Isabella, her brow furrowed with concern, checked to see if I was hurt. Once she was sure I was okay, she breathed a sigh of relief and guided me away from the scene. Still shaken, I didn't protest, just let her lead me downstairs. Lying on the floor, watching us walk away together, Chloe bit her lips so hard it bled, trying to stifle the sobs that escaped her throat. She closed her eyes in despair, her mind filled with memories of me. The time her stomach condition flared up, and I'd stayed by her side, calling doctor after doctor, constantly checking on her. The time she'd bruised her arm, and I'd immediately rushed to make a warm compress for her, my eyes filled with concern. The nights she couldn't sleep, and I'd stay up with her, fighting my own exhaustion, playing calming music and making her warm milk. Before, anything that concerned her was my top priority. Now, she had been seriously injured saving me, and I had just walked away without a second glance. It was in that moment that Chloe finally knew with absolute certainty that I was no longer the man she once knew. My world no longer revolved around her. I didn't love her anymore. I only started to calm down once we were home. I lay on the sofa, sipping the hot tea she brought me, but I was still shaken by what had just happened. I was about to say something to Isabella, but when I turned my head, I saw her coming downstairs with a first aid kit. I quickly scanned myself up and down but couldn't find a single scratch. Her action confused me even more. "I'm not hurt," I said. "What's the first aid kit for?" Isabella didn't answer. Instead, she gently pointed to my ankle. I followed her gaze and saw a small cut on my heel, scraped by a piece of shattered glass. She dabbed a cotton swab with alcohol, her voice soft. "This might sting a little." It was such a minor cut that I normally wouldn't have even noticed it. Seeing her so concerned made me feel a little embarrassed. "It's nothing, really. You don't have to worry about it." Despite my words, I still hissed as the alcohol touched the cut. After cleaning it, Isabella covered the cut with a bandage. "I'll have some waterproof dressings sent over," she said earnestly. "Make sure you wear one in the shower for the next couple of days. Be careful not to get it wet, and try to wear open-heeled shoes if you go out." I'd been on my own for a long time, living with my aunt, then 4 years of college and 7 years in New York. This was the first time anyone had ever made such a fuss over a tiny scratch on me. A little stunned, I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. "You don't have to go to all that trouble. The cut will probably be healed by the time the stuff gets here." Isabella looked up at me, her expression more serious than I'd ever seen it. "The fact that you were hurt at all tonight is my fault. I feel responsible. Any cut, no matter how small, still hurts. After the shock you had tonight, the last thing I want is for you to be in any discomfort. So forgive me for being a little fussy. But it never hurts to be careful. Just humor me this once, Ethan." I don't know if it was the sincerity in her voice or the flicker of guilt in her eyes, but something inside me stirred. I couldn't meet her gaze. I just looked down and nodded. After Isabella left with the first aid kit, I got a call from Tiffany. "Ethan, are you really that heartless? Chloe got seriously hurt saving you, and you're not even going to come see her?" I wasn't about to let her pin this on me. I scoffed. If she hadn't been harassing me and grabbing my arm, I wouldn't have been under that chandelier in the first place. She got hurt because of her own actions. How is that my fault? Regardless, she pushed you out of the way when it mattered. Don't you feel anything for her anymore? I almost had to admire her shameless ability to twist the facts. I was done arguing. I glanced down at the bandage on my ankle and lied. "I'd love to go see her, but I was injured too. I can't leave the house." The line was silent for a few seconds. Then, Tiffany cleared her throat and changed her tune. "Fine, if you can't come, you can't come. But you still owe her. How about this? I hear the launch gala for the Crestview project is next month. Have your assistant send us a few invitations, and we'll call it even." So that was their angle. I let out a small, humorless laugh and casually agreed. After hanging up, I texted my aunt, Catherine, asked her for the details on the project, and requested a few invitations for the gala. For the next few days, Isabella was my shadow. At first, I tried to encourage her to go do her own thing, but she always used our honeymoon as an excuse to stay. Gradually, I found myself getting used to her presence. Whenever I hit a snag at work, she always seemed to have a thoughtful suggestion. Spending so much time together, we quickly grew comfortable with each other. When I had to work late, she would sit quietly beside me with her own laptop, keeping me company while she worked. If she had to go out, she would always let me know where she was going and when she'd be back. On our days off, she'd take me out, showing me all sorts of interesting places and hidden gems around the city I never knew existed. A few weeks later, for the holidays, the Pierce and Sutton families decided to celebrate together. The two large families sat together, a dozen of us chatting animatedly, with the conversation inevitably circling back to the newlyweds. My mother looked at Isabella and me, her face beaming with pride. "Ethan is just as stubborn as his aunt," she sighed contentedly. After he graduated, I begged him to come back to Boston, but he insisted on striking out on his own. I just didn't know what to do with him. "Isabella, dear, you'll have to be patient with him if he gives you any trouble." I was about to protest my mother's public critique when Isabella placed a peeled orange segment in my hand. "Oh, Mom, you're being too harsh," she said with a smile. "Ethan isn't stubborn. I think he's independent and has a strong sense of self. I have no doubt that he and Catherine will be able to lead the Pierce family into the future. If anything, I'm the one who needs to learn from him. I just hope I don't hold him back." Her words prompted a chorus of praise from the Suttons, which left my mother beaming. "As long as you two are happy together, That's all we elders can ask for. And if you could give us a grandchild soon, well, we'd be even happier. The other elders chimed in with similar jokes, and I felt my face and ears turn bright red. Isabella noticed my discomfort, quickly made an excuse, and pulled me out into the garden. The cold winter air helped the color in my face return to normal. A small smile played on Isabella's lips as she changed the subject. Are you going to that gala tomorrow night? I have to. I'm the one who got Chloe the invitation. I need to be there to keep an eye on her, see what she's planning. Are there any extra invitations? Can I have one? I looked at her, surprised. The project is a big deal, but I thought you and your sister were focused on that Riverdale deal right now. You're really going to take time away from that to come feel out the competition? Isabella knew I was teasing and blinked playfully. Of course, I'm not interested in the project. It's the holidays and I'm bored. I just wanted to go with you. I nodded. Remembering I only had one invitation left, I took her hand and led her downstairs to find my aunt. The Crestview Project Gala was held at the grandest hotel in Boston. At 7 o'clock, the project head took the stage and officially kicked off the evening. Our car got stuck in traffic, so we arrived half an hour late. The moment we walked in, my Aunt Catherine was swarmed by a crowd of eager investors. Not wanting to get caught in the fray, I steered Isabella around the crowd and into the ballroom. Since neither of us was there for business, we simply wandered through the hall, enjoying the food and wine. From the second-floor balcony, Chloe stood with a glass of champagne, leaning against the railing. Her eyes immediately found me, whispering and laughing with Isabella. She had done a lot of thinking over the past month. I was done with her. I was a Pierce, married to a Sutton. She couldn't afford to make an enemy of either of our families. So she had been telling herself to let it go, to accept reality. But after all that self-pep talk, seeing us together, so close and comfortable, a wave of resentment washed over her, and her expression soured. Beside her, Julian followed her gaze. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he immediately pulled Vivian towards the stairs. Seeing them go, Tiffany grabbed Chloe and followed. The four of them made their way through the crowd to where we were standing. Since Vivian was the only one who knew Isabella, she spoke first. Isabella, it's been a while. I heard you just got married. Congratulations. Although Isabella clearly wasn't thrilled to see them, she remained perfectly polite, giving a slight nod. Thank you. Her curt reply brought a chill to the conversation. Unsure what to say next, Vivian shot Julian a look. He quickly stepped forward and waved at me. Ethan, man, remember me? We met a couple of months ago. I met his enthusiasm with a cool smile. Julian, long time no see. At the sound of my voice, Chloe finally looked up, just in time to catch my icy glare. She forced a smile. Ethan, long time no see. I heard you were hurt the other night. Are you okay now? I'm doing just fine, thanks to you. The pointed tone in my voice made Chloe flinch, a guilty look crossing her face. She opened her mouth to explain, but Isabella cut her off smoothly. Ethan and I are just here with his aunt tonight. I didn't expect to run into you, Vivian. What brings you all the way to Boston for the holidays? At that, Tiffany nudged Vivian, signaling her to take the opening. Our families are actually quite interested in the Crestview project, so we came to check it out. We heard Ethan's aunt is heading up the project. We were hoping, Isabella, that for old time's sake, you might be able to introduce us. Isabella didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced at me, as if asking for my input. After we exchanged a look, I spoke. Isabella and I would love to help, but as you can see, my aunt is swamped right now. I'm afraid it's not a good time. The three of them exchanged a look, understanding my polite refusal. Not wanting to push their luck, they made a bit of small talk and then excused themselves. Only Chloe lingered, staring at me, looking like she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I ignored her and led Isabella away, but she followed us like a ghost, from the ballroom to the second floor, and out into the garden. When we were finally alone, Isabella stopped and turned, her expression cold. Miss Chloe, you've been following my husband and me. Is there something you wanted to say? Chloe finally seemed to realize how she was acting and quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I've had a bit too much to drink. I got turned around. Isabella let out a small, cold laugh at the lame excuse. It's one thing to be confused for a moment, but I wouldn't recommend staying confused. Ethan may be sentimental, but I have no history with your family. There are no old times for us to fall back on. The veiled threat in her words made Chloe's stomach drop. She knew that with the Sutton family's influence, a single word from Isabella could make her family's business disappear from New York overnight. Chloe didn't dare risk her family's future by talking back. She just gritted her teeth, swallowed her pride, and went back inside. Before she even reached the ballroom doors, she could hear a commotion inside. Tiffany's voice cut through the noise. "Ms. Pierce, your nephew is a friend of ours. Won't you at least have one drink with us? For his sake." She didn't know what was happening, but she knew that couldn't be good. She rushed inside. Just as she pushed through the crowd, the "Ms. Pierce, I'm sorry" on her lips died when she saw my Aunt Catherine on the phone, calling for security. The entire room went silent. The other guests looked on with amusement at the four of them, their faces pale with shock. My aunt, clearly offended, showed them no mercy. She announced to the entire room, her voice ringing with authority, "Tonight is the launch gala for the Crestview project. It is not an opportunity to solicit backdoor deals. You were all invited here to listen to the official presentation. I suggest you do that and not follow the example of these individuals and their alternative methods. Otherwise, you will be removed from the premises. And don't say I didn't warn you." As a dozen security guards were escorting the four of them out, Isabella and I walked back into the ballroom. We stood in the doorway and watched them go. Then we looked at each other, and we both started to smile. The MC's voice echoed from the stage. The presentation was about to begin. With the troublemakers gone, I had no reason to stay. I told Isabella the first wanted to go home. As always, she agreed. She sent a quick text to my aunt, and we left. We had been staying at my family's estate, but with the staff gone for the holidays, the house felt empty. We curled up on the sofa and watched a movie. Around midnight, I suddenly had a craving for sweet rice balls. It being a holiday and so late, nothing was open for delivery. I stared at the "delivery unavailable" message on my phone and sighed. Seeing my disappointed face, Isabella smiled warmly, got up, and went to the kitchen. She came back with a bag of glutinous rice flour. I watched her, surprised and intrigued. "You know how to make them?" Seeing me playing with the bag of flour, Isabella knew I wanted to help. She grabbed 2 aprons and handed one to me. "Not really," she admitted, "but I can find a tutorial. How hard can it be?" I had to agree with her logic. I pulled out my phone. An hour later, after much trial and error, we had managed to produce a batch of lopsided, misshapen rice balls of various sizes. When the water boiled, I went to put them in, but Isabella, afraid I'd burn myself, took the plate from me and sent me to get bowls instead. We didn't have any fermented rice, so she just added some brown sugar to the water for flavor. By the time the 2 bowls were ready, it was after midnight. I fished out the biggest rice ball with my spoon and held it up triumphantly. "I got the biggest one. Looks like I'm going to have good luck this year." Isabella just watched me, a fond smile on her face. I took a bite. The triumphant look on my face froze for a second before I quickly rearranged my features. Isabella caught the flicker of my expression. "Is it not good?" she asked, smiling. My eyes darted around. I nodded enthusiastically and held out my spoon to her. "It's delicious. You have to try it." Isabella only needed one glance to know that the giant, plum-sized rice ball I had made was completely raw in the middle. But without a moment's hesitation, she leaned in and ate the other half off my spoon. Seeing her fall for my trap, I could barely hold back my laughter. I quickly covered my mouth with my hand. "Good, right?" My voice was dripping with schadenfreude, but Isabella's face lit up with genuine surprise. She gave me a thumbs up. "It's delicious, sweet and chewy. It's perfect." Her eyes were sparkling as she said it, and for a second, I couldn't tell if she was being serious. But I trusted my own taste buds. I put down my spoon, tilted her chin up with one hand, and tried to pry open her mouth. She quickly swallowed. By the time I managed to get a look inside, there was nothing there. I pouted, disappointed. "It was raw. You were just pretending, weren't you?" Our playful wrestling sent us tumbling off the sofa and onto the rug. We landed face to face, our noses almost touching. The air between us suddenly felt charged. We were so close I could hear my own heart pounding in my chest. My head was telling me to pull away, but my body refused to move. As the seconds ticked by, our breathing grew heavier, and the warmth of our skin where we touched seemed to intensify. Isabella could see her own reflection in my eyes. She reached up, as if to touch my eyelashes, and then closed her eyes. Sometimes silence is an answer. I understood. I leaned down and whispered softly in her ear, "Is this okay?" Hearing my quiet question, Isabella felt her heart skip a beat. She knew what I was asking. Her skin felt like it was on fire as she gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. The next second, the world spun, and I was lifting her into my arms. As our lips met, our breaths mingled and became one, and the night was still young.